Hi guys, this is Real Talk with Monica, guys, and guess what, guys? Man, this is going to be my final 2-hour segment, guys. And man, thank you for continuing to watch me tonight and feel like it's a Real Talk Monica fiesta going on tonight. That was a great episode that I had with the RVA YouTubers. But now we're going to go to a more serious topic, guys. It's about suicide. And, you know, I had to bring one of my favorite docs back on, depression within me. That was a outstanding topic that we had just a couple of weeks ago. And we had the distinguishing colleague from St. Mary's, Dr. Miriam Pizzani. She's also a professor at MCV and a full-time professor. And I just had to bring this woman back on. We had so much of a great topic. And some of the people was telling me that, hey, this woman was I love her, and this and that, you got to bring her on. And we were just talking a little bit off of camera. She said, you really doing good, Mom. You might be the next over. I said, hey, you might be my next Dr. Fios. So you never know what God can lead you to. But I'm so happy at a short notice to get her back on camera, because this woman needs to be on TV. She really does. She is an outstanding colleague, like I said, from St. Mary's, and she has an office right there in St. Mary's. It's off of Bremo Road, guys. And guess what? I brought the beautiful, distinguishing, talented Dr. Miriam Pizzani. Welcome to Real Talk again.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it is. It's great to be back, especially Dr. Pizzani on a Tuesday night. One thing I wanted to say was that we was going to follow up on our previous discussion that we had was about depression within me. So I thought that we kind of led a little bit into suicide. And so one of the reasons that I picked suicide was because I did some research and I found that Virginia suicide rate was the highest in 13 years in 2013.
Wow.
So I said, I was just talking with Dr. Pizzani in the office, and I said, well, can you please come back on? Because a lot of people are watching the show. Please continue to watch it on YouTube channel, Real Talk with Monica, Depression with Me. And I know this one is going to be an exciting episode because it's already getting a lot of buzz on my promo, and I just released a couple of days ago. So with that said, I found some interesting things that even though people don't know, suicide is one of the most difficult tragedies a family and a community have to face with. So in your profession, Dr. Pizzani, suicide, can you tell us a little bit about suicide?
Well, it's something we really try to avoid.
Yeah.
Because it's like the worst possible thing to have happen to a family, as you just said.
Yeah.
And most of my patients that I treat for depression, the one thing I'm trying to prevent is suicide.
Yeah.
Trying to prevent that.
Yeah.
Trying to get them not to be so depressed, so they won't even think about killing themselves.
Right. And when you
consider
said that, I'm glad you said it, but I didn't realize Virginia had a high rate of suicide.
Now I know,
Yeah.
because you just told us.
Yeah. It was shocking and alarming. In your profession, have you seen a lot of suicide cases?
Well, as I just said, I'm treat a lot of depression.
Yeah.
Most of my patients I'm treating for depression, but I'm happy to say I don't see that many suicides because if I'm successful, nobody kills themselves.
Yeah.
But as you said, there are many more suicides in Virginia than people realize.
Yeah. And one of the things that I found alarming was from the Virginia.gov that they said in 2013, they said Virginia was ranked the 16th out the whole United States country with suicide. And they said out of an estimate, they said 12.5 deaths per 100,000. So that meaning that suicide, Virginia is right up there. This is a study that came off of Virginia.gov under the health department section, under the mental health. And it said that suicide ranked right up there among this 10 to 24-year-old category. And we just was talking off camera. You said you had saw some statistics yourself.
Well, I looked for statistics also, and they said it was the second leading cause of death in 18 to 24-year-olds.
Right.
Which is young people, really young people, to die of suicide. And it's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States for all ages.
Wow.
All ages.
That is alarming, and you would think from somebody that's living from 10 to 24, you got so much life to have, and to commit suicide at a young age, to even think about attempting, that's alarming.
Right. That's very alarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I'm glad you brought up those statistics, because I saw another thing that was alarming. You know, Virginia has a big military background with the bases, Fort Lee, VMI, exactly. Right. And I was reading something up that suicide is high rate among our guys that served in military. Have you seen any military?
No, well, I have some patients who've been in the military.
Yeah.
But they haven't committed suicide.
Or they even, did they attempt it?
No.
Oh, they didn't, okay.
No, but I see people who are thinking about it. And one person, he wasn't in the military, but he told me he was always suicidal.
Wow.
He had been for years.
Wow, because I was because my father had served in the military, and my mother and you know, family members down the line, and I have known when I was working with a government service, we had serviced a lot of military vets, and they said it was a high number of PTSD.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. I see a lot of that.
Yeah.
In vets.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would think the trauma with a war and you're away from your family, you know, what's some of the things that some of your patients that you did see with military, thank God they didn't think about that, but what are some of the tragedies that they had to cope coming back from service?
Horrible tragedies. Like one veteran told me he saw a lot of his friends get killed, and he saw them get killed tragically, you know, when they didn't realize that they were going to be killed. And that upset him a lot, to see his friends die.
And then I found out, too, that on military bases, people are committing suicide as well.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what I said, and, you know, you don't understand, you know, well, we got all of this stuff going on with ISIS and, you know, the Syria crisis and all of that. And just to think that, and sometimes I have heard on like CNN, some of the news program, Fox, some of those guys get deployed 10 and 12 times.
I know.
And that got to be a toll on them to see death.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Must be a horrible experience for them. And, you know, and they tell me how horrible it is. Yeah, in my office they tell me. Yeah, it's just horrible. And I was treating one veteran who did commit suicide, not because I was treating him. I only saw him like twice. I've only seen him twice in the office. But then he died, and I called his wife to tell her how sorry I was, and she said he committed suicide.
Man, that's one alarming thing. But another thing I had saw was that recently, this past fiscal budget year, that Virginia have funded $124 million into the budget for mental health and low income.
It's good.
And that is. And actually, I saw some today on the Washington Post that that Virginia was one of the states, along with a few others, that have put in extra funding because of this. And I didn't catch the name, but it was, I think we alluded to it last time on our last, Craig Deeds. That's who was the state senator.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, his son Gus Deeds had tried to kill him.
Kill his father.
Yeah, and then he
killed himself.
He killed himself with a gunshot.
Right.
Yeah, and so I thought that was really interesting when I saw that in light of a tragedy that happened in 2013, Virginia stuck up to the plate and created a law because just to remind y'all guys what had happened was that so Craig Deed's son didn't have, he tried to get his son committed into a state institution, a mental, and they did not have any available beds for him.
Yeah.
And I thought that, I said, wow, what had happened if we could have saved that young guy's life, you know?
That would have been the way it should have been.
Yeah. But it's always something, don't it always seem like it's something, Dr. Pizzani, with tragedy? That's when we start to kick in and really think of something then?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think lately in our country, with the tragedy that we had in California last week,
to that.
All these people were murdered, innocent people.
Yeah, but look what happened in Colorado as well.
I know.
It's like it's one thing.
Terrible.
Let me ask you something, Dr. Pizzani. Have you ever treated somebody that went through a traumatic situation where somebody killed themselves on a job, or something like happened similar to like in Colorado, California?
I treated, this was a few years ago now, but I treated this girl whose father had killed himself in front of her.
Oh, wow.
Shot himself in front of her. And she was very upset about it, naturally. Of course, she loved her father.
Yeah.
She didn't want him to die.
Yeah.
And then he killed himself in front of her, and she couldn't stop him. There's no way she could stop him.
That is a tragedy. I just imagine, Dr. Pizzani, that you see that happening. That's why I want to know what. Okay, there's a phone call. Welcome to Real Talk. Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, interesting topic, talking about suicide, and then you mentioned about the terrorism in California.
Yes.
Let me ask this to Dr. Pizzani.
Okay.
What would be the mindset of, you know, they label some of these people suicide bombers, where these people go in and commit acts of terrorism, and they know that, and they kill themselves. Is that any relation to like what we see in this country? If somebody is depressed and they just take themselves out, what's the difference in mindset? And what do you think goes into the mindset of somebody who does that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scholar. So
it's a good question.
Yeah, it is.
I think they're usually people who are depressed, really depressed, and they don't think about suicide unless they're very depressed.
You know,
and they need treatment for depression. And I'm glad, Monica, that you just said that the state just they're going to spend a lot of money for mental health.
Yeah,
we need that.
You need that.
We need it. We really do.
You need it in your profession.
And we have the mental health clinics, and like what happened last week was in a mental health clinic. They attacked where they killed all those people. It was in a mental health
to help disabled
board.
People. Yeah,
to help people who were depressed.
Yeah,
not necessarily suicidal, but depressed. And that's where they went in and started killing innocent people.
Yeah, and well, see, that's what me and a colleague had a question, Dr. Pizzani, was that how can somebody like these young kids come, you know, that in them war-torn countries, and then scrap stuff with bombs? They're babies. They don't know anything, and they just do it in the name of a religion. Is it evilness, or is it sick, or is it more than just depression? Because what do you got going on to have kids scrap bombs? And matter of fact, before I get you to ask that question, now that woman that was a part of this tragedy, she killed herself, and then she had a 6-month-old baby.
I know. That's horrible.
I mean, she went out killing people, but, you know, had a baby. What goes in these people's minds? You know?
They're not normal.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not normal.
Yeah, is it like a chemical imbalance or something?
Well, you know, we think, you know, there are a couple of neurotransmitters, and the mnemonic I use for that is 2, diet, do not eat. 2, tyrosine, D, dopamine, not norepinephrine, and eat epinephrine. Those are the major neurotransmitters. There's another one called serotonin. That's not my mnemonic. But, you know, these people don't have enough. Usually, when they're depressed, they don't have enough dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, or serotonin or tyrosine in their brains, in their bloodstream. So they're lacking, you said chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
but they're lacking these neurotransmitters. They are low levels of neurotransmitters in their brains and their bodies, and they need more. And the antidepressants, which are very effective, they increase the level in the body. They increase the levels of tyrosine, dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine, and serotonin in the body. They increase the levels of neurotransmitters so that they won't be depressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's one of the good things that we had discussed about that, is that that's why I wanted to have you on here to talk about it, because we want to probably save some lives. And you know, I was telling Dr. Pizzani, when I went through my situation where I almost came across death, I had thought about suicide, and it was my faith that kept me from God not to do that, because we have taught since I was a baby, thou shalt not kill himself. You know, the 10 Commandments and certain things.
Those things are really important.
Yeah.
In fact, I was giving a lecture yesterday to people who have lupus, that disease, and somebody started talking about suicide in the audience, and they said that they have never considered committing suicide, like you just said, because they're very religious, they're Christian, and it says in the Bible, don't kill yourself. And,
you don't mean to go to hell.
So that's why this woman who sick with lupus said she would never kill herself. The same reason you wouldn't. It's in the Bible.
But what do you think, Dr. Pizzani? Remember, I forgot, is it Dr. Death? Remember these doctors that they had in some of these states that they had a right to kill patients if they give them, you know, the consent. What do you think about that from a medical point of view, to have a doctor to authorize that?
I think it's horrible. And it goes against the oath of Maimonides that we all take when we become physicians. We have to take this oath of Maimonides not to hurt any patient ever, not to ever hurt a patient and cause harm to any patient. And you know, those people, they're killing themselves. That's horrible.
But have a doctor to do it.
I think it's horrible. And I think whatever doctors do that, they're guilty of murder, really.
Well, that's why I was saying, I think it was Jack Kevorkian, if I can get that correct.
His name,
he was labeled Dr. Death, and he had committed so many, you know.
Those were people who wanted to die, but still, it's not right to tell people to die. I always am trying to talk my patients out of trying to hurt themselves in any way. You know, many of them will cut themselves, and I tell them, you know, you can't do that, because if you cut yourself, it can get infected, you know, and you could even die from that, just from cutting yourself with a knife. So a lot of them do that, but I've discouraged them tremendously from doing anything like that. And in answer to your question, I think that Dr. Kevorkian was wrong. I mean, I think he was really
Another
bad.
caller. Yes, caller. Welcome to Real Talk with Monica.
Yeah, so I would like to ask the doctor a question. What is the difference between a depression and a recession?
Okay. What's the difference between... Can you turn your TV down, dear?
Sure.
Okay.
Between depression and what?
Depression and reset? Hello?
What's the difference between a depression and a recession?
Recession.
Oh, recession is like an economic word. It's about, you know, when we don't have enough money in the budget to pay our bills, and that's a recession. Like in the 30s, we had a big recession in the United States. And a few years ago, we had another recession. But depression, we're talking about the brain, mental illness, stuff like that. We're talking about depression. Recession is financial. It's a financial problem.
Well, why did they call in the 1930s, they called it the Depression?
Well, they called it a depression, but I don't think, I wasn't alive in the 30s, but I don't think if they were talking about mental illness.
Okay, Carl, I got another caller trying to come through. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, well, you know what, he alluded to one thing, was that I had did a paper just recently about one of the authors named Mary Parker Follett, and she stayed in the depression area, and women was not recognized. But when you have nothing and you get sunk in depression, I'm glad the caller mentioned that, because some of the facts that I found, that depression is one of the leading factors into suicide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the major reason that people kill themselves is because they're depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, and call if you call back, please call back if something happened with your phone. Make sure you give us a call, 915-5202. We're waiting to take your phone calls. We got the beautiful Dr. Miriam Pizzani here. She's a psychiatrist at St. Mary's Residence. She does lectures and she does other speaking engagements. So if you want to know about this topic, or if you have any concerns, and Dr. Pizzani, you're taking patients as well, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and let me tell you guys, this worked. Dr. Pizzani, I met her, and she said, guess what, Monica, they seen the show, and she got a new patient. But sometimes, if you're scared to call up, just give Dr. Pizzani's staff a call, 804-288-6410. She'd be willing to take new patients. And if you got any questions offline from the shop topic, she'd be willing to talk to you. And like I said, you need counseling. You need one of the doctors that, and by the way, tell everybody how long you've been doing your job so they'll know.
I've been doing it for 35 years.
Yes. Wow.
And I really enjoy it. I love what I do. And I tell my patients, if you have a job, you should love what you do.
Right.
Try to love what you do, then you'll enjoy work. It won't be like work. It'll be like fun.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this show is fun. It's not work.
Well, I believe me, Dr. Pizzani, like I told you, you saw some of my battles and struggles, and just like the previous guest was on there, and they was just happy a lot. I love doing what I'm doing here, and like I said, I'm hoping that this thing can grow bigger, and I see it. God gave me a vision to step forward, and I just love what I'm doing, helping people, and you're one of the people that like helping people, so that's why I said I had to bring you back on, because if we got some people that's hurting, and when I just gave you that statistic that Virginia ranked number 13 based on the 2013 segment, you need to see some doctors in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people shouldn't die of suicide or die of depression. They should get help.
Yeah.
Then they can, if they see a doctor, they don't have to see me, but at least psychiatrists can deal with depression and prescribe antidepressants.
Right.
And then they can get over the depression. Then they won't feel suicidal at all.
Yeah.
That saves their life.
Yeah,
Right.
and like I said, guys, even though some people might want to do a holistic type of approach.
Holistic.
Yeah.
Holistic.
Yeah, holistic type approach on medicine. Sometimes you do need it. And like I said, I've been battling the illness, and and I monitor some of the things that I have. But to build a relationship with a doctor, especially like with Dr. Pizzani, is one of the good keys. You got to feel comfortable with your doctor. And if you don't feel comfortable with that doctor, see another doctor. It's sometimes almost like when you get ready to buy a car, you test it out, and if it's not right, you take it back to the dealer. Some things like that. Because, and I told everybody that Dr. Pizzani is a woman that's willing to help. And like she said, hey, I like doing what I want to do. I don't even look like retirement coming, because you have
I want to retire.
Yeah.
Because I've enjoyed what I do.
Yeah. And helping people is one good cause. But guys, also, I want to give the suicide information I found on Virginia is www.suicide.org. If you're thinking about committing suicide, I will have this up later on my YouTube channel for all the full information. But the number is 1-800-784-2433. The acronyms is 1-800-SUICIDE. For our military veterans, if you're thinking about having suicide, please call the hotline. It's 1-800-273-TALK and press 1. For our Latinos that speak in Spanish, and like I said, I'm going to have a Latino episode coming up on my YouTube, but for my Latinos that's here in the Richmond area, If you're thinking about suicide, please call 1-800-273-TALK, press 2. And the LGBT youth, I found this interesting. I'm going to allude that with Dr. Pizzani about that sector. Is 1-866-44-TREVOR, okay? And that's for the LGBT youth. Now, Dr. Pizzani, I thought this was interesting. The LGBT community, with all of this transgender,
right.
Have you seen a patient like that?
Yes.
Before?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have. And I have several patients I've seen like that. But, you know, it's hard because their families don't want them to be gay or to be lesbians, whatever you want to call it. And maybe they don't want them to be transgender. Their families don't like it.
Right.
But even though their families don't like it, that's what they're doing. That's what they feel like they have to do. They really don't want, they want to do it, but they really feel like they have to do it. It's not something it's not easy to talk people out of that. One of my early patients, many years, like 30-something years ago, they brought this patient to me so that I can make him, it was a man, not be gay. That's impossible. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't really talk somebody out of being gay.
Yeah.
They're going to be gay if they want to be. If they want to be a lesbian, they will be if they want to be. But, you know, you can't talk people out of their sexual identity. You know, that's their identity.
Yeah. And one good thing you brought up is that I'm trying to build a panel for that, and I'm going to see if you're available to have you on. I met somebody on Facebook, and I'm not going to share their names. I'm hoping they come on segment about transgender identity, the lesbian community that's here in Richmond, and I would love to have you as the special doctor on segment and have a panel of people that's willing to be on camera to talk about that, because that is a new trend that's rising. Ever since Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner, came out,
right?
That is like, it's almost trying to be socially acceptable, and also the military is trying to always, looking about changing their standards as well.
Laws, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But, you know, these people, like, for example, you brought up Bruce Jenner. He said publicly that he always felt like he wasn't a man, but he was a woman. He felt like that his whole life. He felt like there was a woman inside of him. And so finally he came out.
And he was even talking about depression, and one of the things I learned from watching his show was that he spoke about being an advocate for people that make sure that they don't commit suicide. And that's one of the things that I had thought. So what's your thing about being in the community about these transgenders and these young kids thinking about committing suicide?
Well, I think it's terrible if the young kids are thinking about committing suicide. I think that's tragic. I don't want anybody to commit suicide. I don't think anybody should. And if they're transgender, or if they're gay, or whether they know whatever their sexual identity, it's not really the main thing. The main thing is they not hurt themselves at all. They not hurt themselves. And I had this patient once whose father came into my office, and he was stamping his foot on the floor. He said, "My son is not gay," like that. And his son was gay.
Right.
But I didn't tell him that. I listened to him. I didn't tell him that his son was gay.
Yeah.
But he was. His son was gay, and he didn't want to accept it. But, you know, parents have to accept whatever their children's sexual identity is. They have to accept it. They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. They just have to accept it.
And I think that's probably why it leads to some of the calls of suicide, because of parents' acceptability on certain issues. Because they look at, okay, my parents don't agree with it, then I'm going to look and commit suicide.
Of course, that's not a reason to kill yourself because your parents don't agree with your sexual identity. It's not a reason to kill yourself. And if your parents don't accept it, it's their problem, parents' problem. It's not the patient, it's not the child's problem, it's the parents' problem. They are not being reasonable. And, you know, you have to, I'm a parent, and you have to look at your kids and see, what do they want? What will make them happy? Not what will make you happy as a parent, what will make them happy.
Right.
And, you know, it may not be the same thing that you want them to do, but it may not be, but we have to let our children do what we don't have to let them, but it's better for them if they can do what they want to do.
Wow, that is a good thing. And then a lot of things, I found that what kind of suicide they have, I found bully, racism, gay and lesbian, rape, postpartum depression. I want to talk about that. And divorce, elderly, and college suicide. So postpartum depression, have you seen anybody?
Oh yes, I've seen a lot of that. That's people who have children.
Yeah.
You know, they've been pregnant and they have a baby, and then they get depressed. They want to have the baby, but then it's usually hormonal. Usually it has to do with their hormones, because their estrogen levels go way up when they're pregnant. They start to get higher and higher and higher and higher. And then, you know, the body needs estrogen to nourish the baby when it's in the placenta. And they need estrogen. But if the estrogen level goes down, they get really depressed. And after they have a baby, the estrogen level does go down. So that's why, one reason that they get depressed. They have this darling baby, and they wanted to have a baby, and they have the baby, but then they get depressed right after the baby's born.
Wow.
They get depressed.
How will you treat something like that, Dr. Pizzani?
Well, with the antidepressants and
counseling.
Counseling, yeah. We call it psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy.
It means counseling, basically. And talk therapy, which is another word for psychotherapy. But people who, if their estrogen levels are low, and that's why they're depressed, you give them estrogen, as well as antidepressants.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you seen any patients that had thought about suicide after losing a child?
Well, yeah. I have, because that's probably the worst thing that can happen to a parent, is to lose a child.
Yeah, I think we alluded to last time we was talking that you knew a personal colleague or something and saw the child hung.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A professional colleague of mine, a doctor. Yeah. And his child came home from college for Christmas vacation. So he was actually very happy to have his child home. And then his child hung himself.
Wow. I haven't did any studies or something but they said that mostly male tends to kill themselves like with a gunshot, and maybe a woman or something maybe hanging.
Well,
or
women, there are more women that try to commit suicide than men. But men actually, I don't want to use the word succeed because it's a horrible thing. Well, they actually are able to do it more often than women are. But that doesn't mean they're successful. It's a horrible thing to do.
You're right, because I did a study that I found in 2013. They said it was out of a study over 1,000. They said white males had at 722 actually actually successfully killed themselves, and white women was like at 212, and the rest was minorities. And I said, wow, they just did 1,000 segment, like 1,000 some people, I guess, like with this study randomly they got the information. And I thought that was interesting, the dynamics of how a man can go through it, that big gap.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't consider killing yourself successful at all.
Yeah, I know, but it's not successful to do it. Yeah, to actually
do it.
To get the guts to do it.
Unfortunately, I don't recommend that. I don't think they have it's not good that they don't want to use the word succeeding, because I think it's horrible. I don't think it's successful.
Well, let me ask you something, Dr. Pizzani. What do you think when we all know that drugs are bad for us, and the presidential candidate Chris Christie had talked about this, about the drug use and stuff like that. But in your opinion, do you know, like we all know the dangers of drugs, why would somebody, take like the heroin or whatever, these street drugs and then these methamphetamines, and it's almost like, it's like a suicide in a way, because this stuff is bad. Yeah.
I knew a young man who died of a heroin overdose. He injected the heroin into his vein and died. But it was very, very tragic and very sad. And he actually came from an excellent family, very nice family. And I knew his parents, and I knew they had been to my home for a lecture years ago, and they had been to my home, and they're really nice people. They're really, really nice people, and this happened to them. They were very of course they were upset. They were more than upset. They were just horrified.
Wow,
it's just horrible.
Yeah, if anybody that, especially young people, never think that suicide is the answer to the question, to the old answer to everything, just try to get some help. But what I found that I did on suicide.org, I found something interesting, like a myth and a fact. And let me see, the myth that I found: young people never think about suicide. They have their entire life ahead of them.
I think that's incorrect, because young people do think of suicide.
Yeah.
In fact, I gave a lecture years ago, many years ago at MCV, about children who thought of suicide.
Yeah.
Young kids, and their mothers and fathers, mainly mothers, had no idea. They had no idea.
Right.
And like one child had said to her mother, "I don't want to live here anymore. I want to live with some aunt or uncle instead." Right. And the mother said no. And then the next day, like maybe 24 hours later, the mother goes into her daughter's bedroom, and she's dead. She killed herself. And these are kids.
Right.
They're not adults. They're like 12 years old, 13-year-olds. They're kids.
Yeah, well, another thing I found too was that, you're right, Dr. Pizzani, the fact that they said suicide is the third leading cause of young people, like you alluded to, 15 to 24, this is what they had on their website, and sometimes children under thinks about suicide, so that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, and one child I treated a few years ago, he said he wanted to know why. He couldn't believe whether or not God existed or not. His mother told him that God existed, and I told him that I thought God existed, and it's good to pray, and it's really good to go to church and to pray. But he said, "How can I know for sure that God exists?" And I said, "Well, it's a thing called faith. We have to have faith." But this kid was just a little boy, and he didn't understand that.
Yeah.
He just said, I can't believe that God exists. And fortunately, he did not hurt himself. But, he thought about it.
Another thing I found interesting too, Dr. Pizzani, about suicide myths, this is another good one. People who attempt suicide are weak.
Well, they're sick, they're ill. They're not, I wouldn't call them weak. I would just say they're ill.
Yeah.
And, weakness comes with illness sometimes, all kinds of illness. But, they're, it's not their fault because they're ill.
Right.
Like a friend, not like an acquaintance of mine, his son committed suicide, and he had just seen his son. He knew his son was depressed. He had just driven to where his son lived and spent some time, like a few days with him. He had to see him because he knew he was depressed.
Yeah.
But then the kid shot himself. So I wouldn't call it that they're weak. I'd say they're ill.
They're ill.
And I asked this friend, acquaintance of mine, did you take him to see a psychiatrist when you knew he was depressed? The answer was no, he didn't. He took him to see a social worker. Nothing against social workers.
Yeah.
They're good people.
You need to see a doctor, MD.
Yeah, right. Well, you need to see somebody who can prescribe medication.
Yeah.
And social workers cannot, unfortunately, they cannot prescribe medication.
Yeah.
They're not educated in pharmacology, and
Yeah.
so they can't prescribe medication. But you need to find somebody who can.
Yeah.
And because then they can get on an antidepressant. So this friend of mine, I hope he's not watching TV tonight. He might be very angry with me.
No. I think this is helpful, Dr. Pizzani.
Well,
They will understand.
But this acquaintance of mine, I'll call him an acquaintance, but I mean, he was in a very successful business. He was making loads of money. He's planning to leave it to this particular son.
Yeah.
So this son would have been really wealthy. But, of course, he didn't live to enjoy the wealth at all.
Wow.
He never inherited anything. But it was just a tragedy. Horrible thing.
Wow.
But
Before I forget, I thought it was interesting when they said elderly people commit suicide.
Right.
And I started thinking, when I went through my illness and stuff, and I can see that now, the elderly, when you're so used to, I ain't even tell you, Dr. Pizzani, it was a little funny, but it wasn't. But it was two women that was elderly, and they swiped and hit my car. I was standing in the parking lot of Walmart, and it shook them up, and I said, no, I'm okay. And it was by the grace of God. I didn't go on that side where they at. And I think if I probably would have called the police or something, the police probably would have tested them and said, well, the first lady, is she eligible to drive? And I thought about it. When somebody's so used to doing something all their life, because we all going to get to that point where we can't be able to do certain things. And I seen it. I said, it makes sense why elderly people might want to commit suicide, because they so used to doing things, and now they can't.
Right.
You take the driving privileges, or they get stuck at home. I can see that happen.
Yeah, and getting stuck at home can be really depressing.
Yeah.
For people, if they want to get out, they want to go shopping, they want to go to the grocery store, they want to, do things that they enjoy, but they can't anymore. They can't
because they still have so much life. They could get up and go, and it's like a terrible illness.
Right.
And I had just seen a friend just the other night. He been in and out the hospital, and he needed some money for his gas bill. He got a GoFundMe account up, and just to see him going through so much pain, and he said, but he not gonna do nothing. But sometimes he feel like giving up, and I can understand. When you've been through so much medical tragedies, and then you got a financial burden, and he needed money for his gas, and I can see just like elderlies, that they get on a fixed income, then they get sick, and then these medical bills pile up. I can see it happen, and they don't want to be a burden on nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
But hopefully people don't let their family members feel like they're a burden. It's important that the children don't allow them to feel like they're a burden. They should say, well, Mom, Dad, whatever it is, that you're not a burden. I enjoy helping you. I enjoy supporting you. I enjoy giving you stuff because you're my parents.
Right.
You did it all for me when I was growing up. And, therefore I want to. I want to help you. You're not a burden. I want to help you.
And guys,
you
should. And guys, like I said, if any people that want to get on the phone call, make sure you call 915-5202. We taking calls. We got the beautiful, talented, highly regarded Dr. Pizzani. She's willing to take questions or anything or concerns that you have about this topic, about suicide. So come on, guys, you can give us a call. I'm glad you said that. And then another thing that I found alarming was that how some people still can't see themselves getting over the hump. You know, and what I'm meaning is that they have so much stuff going on, and they just lower themselves that's the all, just to go ahead and commit suicide.
It's certainly not a solution.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve a problem. It creates more problems, because not only do they die, but their parents, if they're alive, they're in mourning. Their parents and their brothers or sisters or anybody, their friends, everybody's very upset about it.
Yeah.
They're very concerned and upset. And it doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
It just creates more problems.
Yeah, and you know what, and in fact, Dr. Pizzani, I wanted to allude it back to what we talked about, these sectors of suicide that's happening. Rape, you know, and incest. And that's a dirty thing. And I have faced certain stuff in my past, you know, not unfortunately considered like rape or anything like that. But have you treated women that went through something tragic like that?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's not uncommon. Incest is not unusual, actually.
Yeah.
And when I was a fellow, when you're in training in medicine, you do an internship, then a residency. Then if you want to specialize, you do what's called a fellowship. Even though you're a woman, you do a fellowship. Yeah. And when I was a fellow, I had a little boy, and he said to me his grandfather was really his father. He said that. And we played in the sandbox, stuff like that. In child psychiatry, you play with the children in the sandbox. You do stuff like that. And we buried somebody in the sandbox. But I said to him, maybe your grandfather is your father. That's possible, but it doesn't mean he doesn't love you, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel good about yourself because your mother is your father is your grandfather. But that happens, and it's not what we want to happen. It's not what's in the Bible, but that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But these people, the children, have to realize that it's not their fault. I took this little boy out to lunch. I was working at a part of MCV. That's it for children with psychiatric problems, and I don't think I was supposed to take him out to lunch, but I did anyway. I did, even though it wasn't like something that they wanted you to do, but I took him out for lunch. And he had never been in a restaurant before.
Wow.
He never had been in any restaurant, ever, before in his life. He said, "Oh my goodness, are they really going to serve me food here?" Yeah, he didn't understand. He'd never been in a restaurant.
Wow.
A couple of kids out. But I worked it was at MCV, the Virginia Treatment Center for Children, which is on North 10th Street.
North 10th Street.
Yeah. And, I couldn't believe that these kids had never been in restaurants. They never had.
Yeah, you know what? That's another good topic. I was thinking about, and here I goes thinking of topics for us to come back on and talk. I'm so interested in, I don't know if you saw this show, like the Sister Wives, where they have like a Norman type of family where they had 3 or 4 wives.
I didn't see the program, but I'm aware of that.
Yeah, and then they have these kids grow up in this large sector. And I thought that would be interesting. I wonder, do we have polygamy families here in Virginia?
Oh, I'm sure we do.
I know,
yes. We do.
Yeah.
We have polygamous families. And I saw one child once who, he had a mother, a father, another mother, and he called the other woman his mother also.
Wow.
Said he had 2 mothers.
Yeah.
He had a brother by another mother, he said. But yeah, there are polygamous families in Virginia. Definitely, there are.
Yeah.
And one child I saw, unfortunately, was told by her parent, one of her parents, to kill herself. It was just terrible.
Right.
But fortunately, she did not do that. But people do tell children to do horrible things like that.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah, and guys, if you want to call off camera, and if you want to be of a guest and to discuss certain topics like that, I'm open to having that as well. I think that would be an interesting topic to have some real talk about, to give people understanding in their life. Excuse me, instead of just seeing that stuff on reality TV all the time. You know, we got some real stuff going on here in Virginia. So I think that'll be a good topic to talk about as well.
That would be.
Yeah. And piggyback on what you were saying about the incest, what goes in a mind, in a sense, for somebody to do that, in a sense, the predator? Just like this Jerry Sadusky, you know, this man was looked as an idol. He was a teacher, and he did that. And I don't, if I can't remember, I think they said maybe a child did committed suicide that he had his hands on. You know, what goes in these predators' minds to do something like that to kids, especially you're a grown person?
Yeah, I think they're all mentally ill.
Yeah.
To do that, I think, you know, unfortunately. Maybe nobody would agree with me, but you know, I think that one of the people we all love and liked a lot, and a real star, Michael Jackson, but he had a lot of kids come to his house.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. You know, why did he have little kids come to his house? And why did the parents allow the kids to go to his house?
I think some of that could have been because he was a celebrity and they fascinated and they wild. You know, you'd be surprised, Dr. Pizzani, when you say when people have money and they have fame and power, you'd be surprised what people willing to do. They sell their souls up, you know, I always say, you know.
In a way, these people that, when they sent their kids to Michael Jackson's house, they were sort of selling their children, in a way.
Yeah, well,
in a way.
But guys, just want to let you know he was found not guilty. You know, rest in peace, his soul. I know, you know, but it was allegation that was laid, and then he had paid off some people before, so it won't go to court. But then when they finally did bring the court case up, you know, he got exonerated of the charges. But it was always a mystery or cloud always felt over him, over his head. And one thing I always felt that it seemed like Michael Jackson was a loner. I wonder why. I wonder did he ever try to commit suicide? Because it seemed like he was a loner a lot. You know, it seemed like because he was this child star, he didn't actually grow up like regular kids. Maybe that's contribute to, you know.
Yeah, so was Judy Garland.
Yeah, Judy
A lot
Garland.
of people were child stars.
Yeah.
And Mickey Rooney was a child star. And you know, I think it was very hard for all of them because they didn't get to go to school like most kids.
Yeah.
They had tutors, and they didn't get to go to be with other children so they could learn how to relate to other children in school. It's hard for them. But, you know, a lot of them really had hard lives.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you said that, Dr. Pizzani, because I was thinking, I was watching the Michael Jackson story, was that they grew up real poor and hard. They crammed up in this little bitty house, but they almost depended on Michael to be the breadwinner to get the family.
yeah,
and he
that's a lot of
sacrificed.
pressure on Michael.
Yeah, he sacrificed, you know, his life to make a family.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when we get our children and they make some, you know, like parents sacrifice. I know you got kids and you sacrifice certain things, but at what cost, you know?
Right.
For a better living, you know.
That's right. Yeah, it's right. It's true.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know that much about Michael Jackson. I haven't seen the show, but how many?
Okay, we've got a few more minutes.
A few more minutes. Well, you know, Michael Jackson was a great talented person.
Yeah.
And I like the way he, he created the walk.
Yeah,
the Michael Jackson walk.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of very wonderful things. He's very talented.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he had a lot of problems too.
Yeah.
Just the pressure of being a star and having all this money and having all these people in the family dependent on him.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
Well, Dr. Pizzani, real talk, I will get to that point, God. And God bless me, I might have to be talking to you a lot more, because I always say that I started off with anything, and if it was just amazing today, the amount of love that I'm getting with a couple of my videos I just released, and then at the time we released your promo ad and all of that, and people liking it, and the Richmond YouTubers. And just today I gained 200 Facebook friends, and I'm like, wow, it's getting crazy. My phone keep going off the hook, and I just want to imagine, if I get to that plateau, I want to still be grounded, but I wouldn't think money changed me, but we never know where our circumstances might lead us,
Yeah. Money is just money. It's not anything that anybody really people shouldn't want money, especially. It's not happiness.
Yeah.
It's not happiness. Happiness is relationships with people that love you and that you love, and family members, and happiness, it's not money. It's not money. I love that movie that was made. Was called Happiness.
Oh, yeah.
With who's the star with his son? They were in it together.
Oh, it was Will Smith and
Will Smith and his son.
Jaden's. Yeah, I think of Jaden, one of them.
Yeah.
So many of them.
His little kid was in it with him.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
Really, the name of the movie was Happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe he was learned how to do the stock market, and he had his little son with him, and he just grew up to be, the biggest stock market trader on the
stockbroker.
Yeah, stockbroker. Yeah. So, but I'm glad you say that, Dr. Pizzani. So, guys, in wrapping up this last few minutes, is that Dr. Pizzani, thank you for coming on Real Talk.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
We already talked. You coming back. But guys, I want to
thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. No, you've been a pleasure. Guys, I want you to always continue to support Real Talk with Monica, guys. Like I said, we'll be back on air on the 1st of next year, on 2016. So guys, continue to support me. Go to Real Talk with Monica, soontobe.com, and my YouTube channel, Real Talk with Monica. So guys, come on and support this girl from Real Talk with Monica, guys, because that's real talk.
Thanks.
Thank you. Great show.
Very good. Thank you for having me.
No, I
really enjoyed it.
Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica. Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica. Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica. Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica. Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica. Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica, Real Talk of Monica.